you have made it to Divine, and we're gonna try to push you to the next level. You know, we're getting to more the expert level, the more niche stuff, and like just mastering things. You know, like now it's more about mastering things and implementing the really important things, like Roshan, how to fight, proper spell usage, target focus, you know, like these things, along with proper last hitting, itemization, what heroes to pick, why to pick them, what item builds, and so on, right? So in the previous videos, we have, you know, looked at from last hitting all the way to resources, how to use our spells, what heroes to pick, and then also like starting to think about Roche, our laning, our mindset, our attitude, and that we're not always perfect, so we need to be open to, you know, improving in the game. But now we've made it this far, let's look at what else we need to look at. I'm gonna give you guys 5 main tips on what to improve on and think about if you want to take your game even further and, you know, make it even better than it already is, and a few small things along the way. The first real tip that I want to give you guys, since I've already talked about what we want to do, is to master our stuff and master our craft. Is that if you guys want to get better and you want to get out of this bracket, you need to pick, there's 2 categories of heroes. I need you to pick your best heroes, but I also need them, if possible, to be strong heroes at the same time. Like right now, before this patch came out, Bad Rider was like one of the best heroes. So if I wanted to really win MMR, I would go mid Bad Rider, because it's one of my best heroes, but it's also a sick hero on this patch. Last patch, similar with Beastmaster, you know, like the more patches go, we understand which heroes are strong. And if our heroes are really strong in the patch, that's even better, because then you hit both criterias. If you're a grand tier alchemist player, then you can play alchemist no matter what. But then it's gonna be even better for you if the hero is also good in the current meta, which he may be right now. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to find heroes that we can master, okay? Like no matter what role you are, if you're level 30 Enchantress +5, that's great, keep playing it. If you're rank 30 Invoker mid, you know, if you wanna keep mastering that. And if you feel like you've mastered that hero and you want to look at a new one, good. Try to have 2 or 3 heroes that you're getting really good with, really familiar. You know all the item builds, all the farming patterns. Or if you're a support, you know exactly how to lane, how to abuse the lane, hard camp, pull, buy a salve, gank minute 4, go to mid, you know, stuff like this. It's very, very important. Master your craft, master your heroes, and understand what your heroes do. Choose a few, do that, and go from there, okay? Now, next tip, number 2. We need to abuse our strengths. And I'm gonna show you guys a quick replay when it comes to that. So what we need to do in these type of matchups, or, well, actually, it doesn't matter, whatever we are, we need to abuse our strengths and work around our weaknesses, okay? So abusing our strength, in this case, would be to rush boots, or maybe phase boots, or an orb of venom, to kill the enemies here if we're an Ursa, right? It's the same if we're playing carry Monkey King against melees. We want to have an early Orb of Venom and boots to kill the enemies, right? Whereas if we look at it from the other perspective, to work around our weakness, if we're the Axe, we want early boots to make it harder for the Ursa to kill us, right? So this is great by this Axe player. He has Ring of Protection to give himself more armor in this lane, and he rushed boots because he knows he's against Ursa Lich. I think this is absolutely great by this guy. So he's, you know, using exactly what I'm talking about. He is working around his weakness because he will be strong later. He has nothing to abuse in terms of a strength right now because he is not stronger. But the Ursa is stronger than the Axe, Kato, especially with Lich. So he should look to get boots faster. He should not buy this slipper, maybe even skip the salve and then just get boots. Hope that if his Lich has a salve, he doesn't need one. Rush boots and play aggressive, you know? Because he is not abusing his strength. This Axe actually did really well, like he understands this concept, okay? If he has boots, he can maybe kill the Axe. They just need to spam regen and boots, and they can win this lane really hard. Yeah, eventually with he does it kind of, but he's gonna like buy some other items he doesn't need. He doesn't need Magic Wand in this lane. he buys Magic Wand and Raindrop, which are 2 items he doesn't need. Like, he can just go Orb of Venom or rush Phase Boots faster and then just play for kills. So this is just like about abusing our strength. Because right now, he should have had Phase Boots already, and he would be playing like with an even higher pace. So this is just like about abusing our strength and knowing what we want to do. It's the same when we're playing Anti-Mage. When you're playing Anti-Mage, what do? Do you abuse your strength? Or do you work around your weakness? Well, usually there aren't that many aggressive item builds you can do with Anti-Mage early on. The way that AM is actually strong is by sustaining and mana burning the enemy. But AM doesn't want to get kicked out of the lane, so he's gonna buy a Ring of Health, right? Like, his way of abusing his strength is that he's gonna mana burn the enemies, and then with one little regen item, he's gonna be fine, right? Like, he's just gonna just sit in the lane, be strong, etc. When you're playing a hero such as Venomancer, you don't want to play too aggressive level 1 and 2, because your timing is gonna be level 3. Which means you are weak level 1 and 2, so you need to itemize around your weakness, which is that you are not that strong early on. So what does that mean? You buy a lot of stats, a lot of regen, so that you can trade gold, so to say, to get experience, to get to level 3, and then you want to play aggressive, okay? That's how you want to like view some of these matchups. Or like something else we can do, if we're playing Axe against matchups where the enemies are really weak, let's say you play Axe against Phantom Lancer and, you know, let's say you play Axe against Phantom Lancer and a Pos 5 Warlock, right? Like, you can just go rush a Ring of Health into a Vanguard. Because first of all, they're not going to harass you enough. You have nothing to do aggressively. You just rush Ring of Health. Then you can start creep skipping, you get Vanguard, and now you can bully them 1v2. You know, that is going to be your strength. So it's often just going to be about us understanding our hero and about understanding the matchups. And this goes back to point number 1, where I'm emphasizing on the fact that we want to pick our strong heroes and master our heroes. You know, take a bunch of heroes, master them, watch replays of pros, and keep getting better with those. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys another very, very, very important point, which we've already looked at in some of the other episodes, where I talk about think about what is next / what you want to do next, okay? Like, what do you need to do in order to keep your game going? So in this instance, again, we have a Gamers Class member, Mr. Oldie Boldy. Shout out to him. So here, we're playing Kunkka Rubik against Phoenix Monkey King. We're obviously in an outmatched matchup, right? They have Monkey King against a melee core. He kind of understands the matchup. He has Orb of Venom, 1 set of regen, a Fairy Fire. You could argue that he can skip the stick, but he has an Orb of Venom, right? And he's gonna rush Boots next, so he understands. What has to happen in this matchup is that eventually we need to realize that this lane is very hard for us, right? As the Kunkka. So we need to think about what we need to do next. So here, when they get level 3 on both their heroes, this matchup is getting very hard. Like, right now, we can push in the wave, which we're doing, but now we should already be thinking about the next wave. Like, there's only 2 plays that we have if we are the dire lane. We need to either A, pull this camp to get the wave here to dodge the lane because we're weaker, or we need to go here right now and take this wave. And it is super important because we need one of these 2 things to happen. Because if this lane continues like this, remember what we talked about with abusing the strengths, Monkey King gets it. Orb of Venom, his boots are coming, and now the lane is just gonna be really hard if it is in this position, which it is going to be, because we didn't pull the wave and we're not pulling the hard camp. Because, well, there is no hard camp, right? So now the lane just becomes very hard. We're not gonna get a lot of CS here as Kunkka playing like this, and they'll just keep pressuring us, so we are gonna end up dying. But this only comes back to the fact that we did not think about what is next. When the game started, we didn't think about, okay, eventually we need to do something weird with the lane where we try to pull this camp and make it open, or we try to like skip the wave. Like, we could either A, skip here right now, but it doesn't feel that good because you'll lose a few creeps. So in the next wave, when it goes into tower, this is a great timing. We can use Torrent, Tidebringer, Fatebolt's cooldown, but like here, we can even last hit this creep and now go to pull the wave, and we're gonna save our game. Now, after we pull the wave here, we have lane control here, and then if the lane gets out of control again, we can just do the same thing. And we go Boots Windlace, and we play on, you know, just getting experience, because our what we need to do here is not necessarily to like win the game. And here, for instance, what the Bad Rider should be doing, all he has to do is play for level 6, because once he gets level 6, he can pressure the OD. I mean, he goes for a tower dive before level 6, which he probably shouldn't really do, but I'm just saying that we need to always think about like what is next. If you're gonna get level 6 soon, understand to have mana, understand to be in the right position to use your hero, and think about what you can do at all times. It is very, very important. Something else that I need to preach and talk about is the fact that we need to use our power spikes. Power spikes is something that I talked about in another video. I think it was how to get out of Ancient. And this is applicable for no matter who you are. It doesn't matter what role you are. It doesn't matter what heroes you're playing. It really doesn't matter. If you're an Enigma with Blink, BKB, and you have Black Hole ready, you want to go and try to use your Black Hole, right? If you're a mid hero with a Haste rune, you want to try to make things happen and use your power spike. The example I use is that when you're a Night Stalker and it's nighttime and you have ulti ready in a good game, you want to go and use this timing, but it's gonna be up to you to figure out if you can do that where you are right now in your lane by calling for help or by you needing to go somewhere else. And of course, now we're in a good bracket, we're in Divine. We need to start understanding these things on our own, how we can make this happen, right? Like if you're an OD with how people play OD right now, well, as far as I'm concerned, they all go Meteor Hammer. You're weak before you get Meteor, and once you get Meteor Hammer, you can do something. If you're playing carry Sven, you don't really want to fight all that much the first like 12 minutes, but once you get like Echo Saber Blink or Echo Saber Sanj or Echo Saber BKB, like then you can start doing things, right? We need to be able to adapt, and we need to like use our timings. When you play Faceless Void, your team is getting tower, though if you have Chrono, you should look to use your TP. If you're playing offlane Pango and you have ulti ready, you can free farm your lane, but as soon as anything happens, we need to be already looking to use our power spike, aka our ult, okay? This is really, really important. And if you're support, like, look at your TP usage, understand that your levels are very important. Like, if you're getting level 6 soon on Snapfire or support Clockwork or on AA, right? Like, we need to look to use our power spikes no matter what hero and what role we are. It is super detrimental for you to improve your game and win more often. We need to implement this. Something else that I learned from watching these games as well in like Divine and all the different brackets actually, so all the way leading up to here, is that people need to think more about the bigger picture, which I'm gonna give you 3 tips for what that means and what that includes, okay? Step 1 is that, well, people need to buy a BKB more often, or at least think about it. It is very, very important. I'm gonna mention BKB, Roshan, and going high ground, okay? These are the 3 things where I see the most games lost, you know, simply because 1, 2, or even all 3 of these things are just done horribly wrong. Okay, horribly wrong. So let's just check this game out. We're so far ahead in this game as Radiant. If we're just gonna look at the Monkey King's like perspective, he should go for a BKB at this point, or like generally speaking, like people are not buying this item enough. I just don't see it in a lot of these games. And from this point onwards, we should be looking more at Roshan. Like these kills are cool, but they don't really do much. It's in an area where it doesn't give us much afterwards. Like this tower is useless. This tower is useless. We already own this much of the map if we're Radiant. Like killing this tower doesn't really do anything. Instead, if you want to skip BKB on Monkey, like we need this Aegis, we should think about Roshan. We're 6k gold ahead. How can the Dire team fight us in the Roshan pit right now? The Slark has nothing. Kunkka has a halberd. Bad Rider is the only strong hero, but like he has to run into Egg, Pudge, Saves, Tree and Armor, and Monkey King Ring, and you also have Deso. So instead of playing here for like useless objectives, we should look to go here. Because let's just see like when Roshan dies in this game. Again, we die mid. We're buying after buying the Basher, we're buying a BKB, but in reality we should have it already. And Roshan in this game doesn't die for like so long. Like we need to keep increasing our lead. We cannot trade kills right now if we're the Radiant lineup. It is very bad for us. Like Roshan doesn't die for like an eternity, which is not good. Like the more ahead you are and the stronger your lineup, you want to go and take Roshan eventually. Like, Roche still hasn't died. And remember, if at any point the Dire lineup wins a teamfight, they're just suddenly gonna get Roche instead of, you know, you having it. So we need to think more about Roshan, and we need to time the ages. So let's say, for the sake of it, Roshan dies at 28. Why is it important for us to understand the timings and time it overall? So if Roshan dies at 28, there's a few numbers that we need to understand. There's, you know, 2800 is when Roshan died. 3300, aka 5 minutes later, is when the Aegis will expire. Okay, so you have 5 minutes and the Aegis is gone. This is important to tell your carry, or well, if you're the carry, to know, okay, Aegis is gonna fade in 10 seconds. I cannot just go in. There's a lot of pro games and even pub games where this shit goes wrong, or in pro games it gets abused, aka to the stronger part. You smoke gank the guy when he loses Aegis. Now, the next numbers you need to know is the 8-minute mark after and the 11-minute mark. Okay? So Aegis drops after 5 minutes, which is going to be 28 plus 5 is 33. And then the other numbers you need to know is 8 to 11 minutes after. Roshan can spawn from any time between this to this number, 3600 to 3900. He could spawn at 3633 if he wants to. But this can make you aware that, okay, this is the Roshan timer, and we want to start playing in the right area, you know, around. So timing Roshan, thinking about Roshan, buying BKBs or thinking more about BKBs, and ultimately understanding high ground is, I think, the ultimate recipe for you to get higher MMR, apart from the other things. So like, think about what's next and mastering your craft in terms of your heroes. It's very important. So as I said already, high grounding is very important, and I'm going to show you a few examples of how you can potentially lose games, or maybe why you're even losing a lot of games, because I saw this very frequently in a lot of games. Okay, so this is, you know, it's another game that our boy, Mr. Battle Fury, submitted to us. I wasn't able to see too much in this game in the early game, but there was something that I had to show later on. The more the game really, you know, the more the game progressed. So what I want to show is later. Simply put, think twice before you go high ground, okay? Like, if you're in these games and whatever, just think twice before you're going high ground. So here we have an example of where, you know, I saw some high grounds being done where I'm like, this is very risky and should just not be done this way. So the Radiant lineup is they already took a Rax when they had Aegis, so they did it properly at this point. But right now, they're 15k gold ahead. They took a Rax. The whole map is theirs. You don't need to force high ground like this, okay? The Luna probably feels super strong, yeah, and he like wants to go high ground, but we need to respect our enemies with their heroes. Like, they have Warlock, they have Earthshaker, they have a lot of damage. Like, Lina hits hard, they have Slardar with Corrosive Haze. Like, the way you want to high ground, first of all, as I said already, think twice before you do it. Understand that you probably want some of the heroes to be dead, or maybe you want an Aegis, or you want very specific timings. Like, if you have a Viper with Dragonlance Shard, you know, he can hit this. But let's just see what happens here, you know? These guys think, oh, I can just go high ground. I don't need Aegis, but in reality, he just gets Echo Slammed and he's dead. Now the 15k gold lead turns into something completely different. And the Luna who's 10k gold ahead will not be 10k gold ahead anymore. Suddenly, the Dire team goes from 15k, to be fair, it should go down to like 8 if they play properly, but they're not farming the whole map. It goes from 15k to like 9. It goes from 15k to 10. And in a real game, it would go from 15 to 8. And imagine you do this around the time where Roshan can respawn. Suddenly, they win this fight. They get like 6k gold. Now they take Roshan. And now the game is suddenly even. You know, like, this high grounding stuff is happening very poorly in a lot of these games. And now I'm gonna have a few more pointers for you guys, okay? For you to just think about, and then that's gonna be it. And then the more of these we use and the more we slowly improve, I will eventually maybe see you guys in my games. And yeah, actually, like, what happens is that, you know, this Luna, after going high ground, he goes back to mid, he dies again. Now they lose. Like, look, the whole game turned in like, I actually forgot this happened. Like, this whole thing, look, in like, how much is this? In like just 3 minutes, the game goes from 15k to even. And exactly what I said even happened. So, like, here. We go high ground at minute 30 with a 17,000 gold lead, okay? But we have no Aegis, we don't have vision, people aren't ready, Sniper isn't there, Legion isn't there to save, you know, and Luna dies. Now, let's fast forward. So they lose one fight and a lot of heroes and map control. Now, Dire are playing pretty good. Radiant are scared. They should be waiting for Roshan. Luna goes alone toward mid again. And remember, these are the only 2 deaths Luna has. But look what happens in just a few minutes off of 2 horrible deaths. 17,000 gold lead thrown away. The enemies counteracts into kill Roshan. And now the whole game is changed. When in reality, all you had to do was play the map, wait for Rosh, and then go high ground again. Like, Dota still is a step-by-step game. We don't want to do the stuff where we skip steps, okay? It's very, very important. Last but not least, a few important tips that anyone can apply to the gameplay is 1. Mute your idiot teammates in the game. I mute one player on average per game. Literally 1. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3, okay? It's absolutely okay. Do not argue. Focus on your game. Focus on your game, keep your game going, and mute the people that are toxic. It is absolutely okay. Number 2, start pushing more waves and farm less jungle camps. Jungle camps should be farmed when you have nowhere else to farm because it's really scary or because you just did a good play. Jungle creep should be more so looked at as a reward because you just did something that your team needed you to do, like push a wave, go into a fight, or you're running back to base, you kill one camp, and then you go back, right? You don't just want to farm like 50 jungle camps in a row, no matter if you're a carry, a mid, or whatever. Very important. And lastly, combine your heroes in the game. Play with your strong heroes. I see it too often that people play with their weak heroes. People are like, oh, my offlaner is losing so hard, we need to go help him. That's usually not a good recipe, because if he's losing already, it means he is weak. In some matchups, yeah, this works, but you don't want to gank for a Slardar that's level 3. You would way rather go mid to your queen that's level 8 and play through him if you're a support, right? Like, play with your strong heroes. When your Axe gets a Blink Dagger, he is strong, which means if you're the Skywrath, look for the Axe. If you're the Axe, look for the Skywrath. Why? Because Axe gives you the lockdown, but he needs the damage, which comes from the Skywrath. And overall, people don't combine the heroes enough. Like, in the early game, the supports can rotate, you can go mid together, then later you can go to your offlaner, do stuff like this. In the mid game, you usually want like 3 heroes to play together. And this just comes down to like what heroes you play. Usually you want to play through your mid in the early game at first, then your offlaner, and then you play, depending on your role. If you're a support, you usually want to play with the guy that gives you a blink stun, because supports are usually the ones that need to cast their spells, right? Like, usually speaking, the supports need to stay in the back, let their core score in for them, and then focus on their spell usage. And you know, if you're an Oracle, you want people to go in for you, which means you want to be behind them so that you can save them, right? If you're playing an Ancient Apparition, you want to be in the back, wait for your Faceless Void, your Sven, your Earthshaker to go in, blink stun, and do this. But on the other hand, if you're like this Earthshaker type guy, or the, let's say, Sand King, you usually need other people to be with you in order to have enough damage to kill the enemy, right? And I think just combining your heroes, thinking more about this, paired up with all the other things we've talked about in this episode and overall in this whole series from Herald all the way up to here, and I might even make a video about Immortal, like how to get to the top, because there's still a lot of things I have not talked about, but I just chose the most important things and the ones that are gonna give you the most value. So I really do hope that a lot of these, or even just some of these things, are important or valuable to you, because remember, at the end of the day, just use 1 or 2 of these things at a time. Don't try to implement all of this stuff. It's gonna be too much. Just use 1, implement it slowly, try to get better, and see where it takes you. And with that said, as always, we appreciate your feedback, we appreciate your comments, and I really do hope this helps you, and peace out.